Lydia, welcome to Halloween Daily. Thank you so much for hanging out and talking to us today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited.
Well, you know I'm excited. We have enjoyed over these last three movies watching you and Andy collaborate to bring this awesome new character of Allyson to life in the most recent Halloween movies, and now we've got Halloween Ends out in theaters right now as we speak, and it's Halloween weekend as we're recording this. Yeah, this is an awesome time to be a Michael Myers fan, to say the least.
Yeah, it's also funny. I'm actually right now back in Savannah, which is where we recorded, where we shot the third movie. So it's like full circle.
It is perfectly fitting then that we're doing this as you're there, not too far from the fictional Haddonfield setting. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, not at all. I drive past it all the time.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Um, well, we are Halloween Daily News, where every day is Halloween, and so we always like to start off with a couple questions just about Halloween itself. So do you go big on Halloween? Do you look forward to it, and do you have some big plans going into Halloween this weekend?
Oh, yeah, I love Halloween. It's one of my favorite holidays. I love getting dressed up and going all out. Unfortunately, my work schedule has been so crazy lately that there have been so many changes. I haven't really had much of a plan this time. I thought I was going to be in Savannah over the holiday weekend, which I was, so excited about.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a last minute change, and I won't be now. So I'm gonna go, I think, trick or treating actually with
Mm-hmm.
a friend and their kid, and I'm really excited for that. But that's about it on my end.
Have you always celebrated? Do you have fond memories growing up of celebrating the holiday?
Oh yeah, I think I remember I think my first not my first Halloween because my parents, they would dress me up and carry me
Mm-hmm.
around, of course, kind of thing. But the first one I can remember, I think I was about 3 years old, and we lived in an apartment complex that was really big on it, and I was dressed up in a little tiger onesie, and I have very clear memories of going around and knocking on the doors and getting candy. So yeah, I mean, I've all really been blessed to live in places that are just huge Halloween towns. I was
Yeah.
in New Orleans for 7 years. And I don't know if there's a better place to celebrate Halloween. St. Charles Ave, the houses there, the mansions, is always decorated to the nines. And there's so many like costume balls and parties, and everybody just like really gets into the swing of things. And it's like it's really cool to see like a whole town just like dive
Yeah.
right in. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And we always have to ask, what is your favorite Halloween costume that you've worn and your favorite Halloween candy?
Oh man. My favorite Halloween candy, that's easy. I'm a big Reese's peanut butter cup
Mm-hmm.
fan. I'm trying to think of my favorite Halloween costume. Normally I go with friends and we all dress up as a
Mm-hmm.
theme. And it's kind of hard to choose, but there was one year where we all dressed up as sort of 80s 80s like jazzercise, and we would just like we would just stop and put on these like random jazzercise performances any chance we get. And there was a Halloween I actually dressed up as Michael Myers, so that was and that was before I ever shot the movies, so
Wow.
that kind of turned out to be pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, kind of a foreshadowing moment of sorts there. That's pretty awesome.
Absolutely. It was a last minute decision too. So it's
Oh
always
man.
cool when something like that happens.
Oh, I love hearing that. That's great. So at what point did you find yourself interested and moving into the stunt world? I mean, is this something that you were into? Have you just always been somebody that uh like to have these physical adventures, or is where did this come from?
Yeah, no, it's interesting because nobody would be more surprised than me that I got into stunts, except perhaps, my family and close friends who knew me, because I was much more of I loved reading. I loved going to the movies and stuff like that. And I was always, relatively physically active. But I had no real concept of stunts. It wasn't really even in my mind. But when I was in college in New Orleans, I started fighting. I started boxing. I became a competitive fighter. And I'm very tall. I'm sure you know Andy's very tall. So I'm 5'10", and having a fight background is quite excellent for stunts. You know, if you can get punched in the face, you know, you can probably, like, you know, take a hit. So that was my background. And I graduated college and I stayed in New Orleans, and I sort of, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was starting to figure out that I wasn't really temperamentally suited to a more traditional, you know, job. You know, I had some of those. I was a waitress, I was a bartender, I was a personal assistant. I, you know, did everything under the sun. I had internships in offices. But honestly, stunts kind of fell into my lap. I was in the right place at the right time with the right look. They were calling New Orleans the Hollywood of the South because there were so many movies being filmed there. And they actually happened to be filming 22 Jump Street on the Tulane campus right after I graduated. And I went to a sort of stunt meet and greet, and I got hired. I was, you know, because they were looking for college age, you know, stunt people. And I got tafted on that show, which means I got entered into the SAG-AFTRA union. And I worked on 22 Jump Street for a couple weeks, and it was my first gig, and it was amazing. I met so many people, and I just kind of went from there.
And that's where it started. And
Yeah.
and you've been working. I mean, looking at your list of credits, I mean, you've been working pretty steadily since then, and some pretty big name franchises along the way. I guess before we get to Halloween, another film that I know you worked on that I know our audience is familiar with, and bringing back to life another horror icon in a franchise, was The Strangers, Prey at Night. Can you
Yes.
talk to us just a little bit about your work as Dollface in that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was my first job in Atlanta, actually. When I moved from, it was filmed in Kentucky, Ohio border. But I was coming from Atlanta. So it was my first job working out of Atlanta. And you know, horror movies are mostly filmed at night. So when you're working on a horror movie, you're working nights. And I was with a great crew from Atlanta. It was a great way to meet people. And it was, I think one of my favorite things about working on horror movies is that they're actually quite creepy, you know, to work on it at night in the setting. And you know, they have the fog machine going. And so with Strangers, they actually had, you know, the little vacation town where the family gets hunted, was truly that creepy. It was all these little, like, abandoned kind of trailer mobile homes, and just running around there at night was pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, it was a fantastic experience with a great crew, and I had so much fun.
Oh, and that is a great movie too. It's one of our favorites. And yeah, to hear it was actually creepy running around there, but fun as well. That you were having a
Yeah.
good time, like I think any of us would, like any Halloween loving, horror loving person. Now, speaking of horror, I was going to ask, and you're kind of answering it already, but were you a horror fan always, or do you like scary movies? Have you always been into horror movies?
I've definitely gotten more and more into it, because
Okay.
I would say I didn't really start off that way, and then but I've worked on so many horror movies now. And it's funny you mentioned my IMDb, because I have not updated my IMDb in a minute. I was also in the movie The Accursed, which just came out. The Night House, like there's been so many horror movies. Right now I'm actually in Savannah working on Fear the Walking Dead.
Very cool.
That's really cool. Just by the nature of being in all of these movies, I've started watching them, watching other horror movies for research, kind of going back to the classics, all that kind of stuff. And I mean, I am now for sure. And I've also just got to say like that, working on horror movies, and shows are the most fun movies to work on. You know, you would think that like working on a comedy or something like that would maybe be more fun, but nobody has a better time than the cast and crew of horror movies. And then also just the fans are so wonderful. It's like just this really big community. And I also have to say they're the most respectful fans too. It's really most appreciative and respectful fans. And so it's really a treat for me every time I get to work on one.
Oh, well, that's awesome to hear, especially as a hardcore horror fan. And how familiar were you prior to getting involved with the 2018 film with the Halloween movies, the original 78 film, the Michael Myers character? You said you've kind of gotten more into horror and gone back to some of the classics as you've been doing that. Were you at all familiar with those films? Had you seen any of them, or what was your relationship to Michael Myers prior to 2018?
So I was familiar with the original. Okay. I didn't watch too many of the remakes or other sequels besides David's. But I had watched the original, and then when I knew that I was going to be doubling Andi and working on the new Halloween movies, I rewatched it again. And then I was him for Halloween before that. So I would definitely say, like, before the movies, I was obviously familiar with it and had watched it, but I would say, my relationship with the story and Michael Myers himself and all the characters, working on the set is where that really developed.
So can you walk us through a little bit of how you arrived in Haddonfield, how you got involved with David's 2018 relaunch? We call it a requel of Halloween.
Right. Well, so the stunt coordinator for the first one was Ron Hutchinson. And they were filming in, I believe, North Carolina. And I kind of just got a call one day out of the blue, which is a lot of the times, what happens with stunts. You just get a call from an unknown number or a text. And it's a coordinator or an assistant coordinator being like, "Hey, are you available? Send me your sizes." So this wasn't really any different. I'm kind of a dead ringer for Andi. When we're wearing our costumes, like nobody can tell the difference. Like people try to give me her coffee and I'm like, I'm not Andi, kind of thing happens, which is, very flattering. She's so beautiful, inside and out. But yeah, so I got that. I submitted, the photos, the sizes, all that kind of stuff. And they were like, all right, you're coming up. And I did. And I believe the first scene we filmed, if memory serves, which it may not, but that we filmed that I was in, was the gate hopping.
Okay.
The gate hopping scene, where she gives the finger, which was actually me. This is the last, "Hey Lydia, can you give us the finger?" And I was like, "Yes, I can," kind of. And I got to meet Andi, which was so wonderful. I remember, she was so psyched to be there. And I think I wasn't her first stunt double, because she'd worked on another movie. But she was still, learning about, I think the stunt aspect of movies, all that. And she was just so sweet and so appreciative and, so wanting to understand what I do, because you're representing that actor. Yeah.
So that first day on 2018, so backing up just a tiny bit, you said when Ron called you, did you know at that time it was going to be the new Halloween movie?
I don't remember. I don't don't believe I did. I don't think
Okay.
I got clarification for a while. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
really funny because my mom will be like, "Hey, what are you working on?" You know, sometimes, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"I don't know." I don't know till I get there a lot of the time. Or, you know, a lot of times when you're filming, they have a code name for it.
Mm-hmm.
Or something like that. And then you get on set and you're like, oh, that's what this is, kind of thing. I think I knew once I got the job, but when I was submitting for it, I don't believe I was aware. And I definitely wasn't aware what it was going to become. So it's been really cool to be on all three. I believe that myself and Jamie Lee Curtis's stunt double, Ashley, I think we're the only members of the stunt team that did all three movies. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome, and it's kind of history too, because there's not too many people that can say, period, that they've survived three Halloween movies, three movies in any of these franchises, these
Yeah.
big horror franchises, to be coming back and playing the same character in three times in a row. That doesn't happen too often in itself. So
Yeah, I remember coming for this last movie, and I had to go in for a fitting. And I was like, that's strange. I have to go in for a fitting because, you know, the wardrobe in the second movie, it picked up right after the first, so it was the same. And that's how I figured out there was a time jump. It's because I got new wardrobe.
nice. So that first scene was, and I love that Oscar scene, and that's awesome to hear that's actually you giving him the middle finger as Allyson's walking away. What are a couple? Because I know fans are just love to hear any of this stuff. What are some of the other scenes that you recall that stand out working on in that first film?
In the first film, I believe that my involvement was relatively minimal. I would say the second movie was the
Yeah.
stunt heaviest for me, and then the third movie I was on probably the longest. But the stunts weren't as big as the second one. And as stunt people, a lot of the time, I think people think we come in and we just do these huge gags or whatever. And a lot of the time we do. You know, you have to be prepared to do the stair falls and to do, you know, the ratchets and to get thrown through glass and stuff like that. But there are also a lot of times where, you know, our main goal and concern is keeping the actor safe. You know, just to keep them safe, but also to make sure that like, they can continue filming and whatnot. So a lot of times when you're doubling an actor, you're doing the things like the fence hop to make sure they don't twist an ankle, you know, or break an ankle or something like that, or they don't, you know, slip and fall and land funny or whatever. So I believe the first movie that was like the main thing I was brought out for was her going over that fence into the yard and then going over the fence again and hopping off. And I did go up one other time, but I think I was more there. It was running through the woods.
Oh yeah.
It was like it was in this really like swampy, brambly, like it was quite nasty and muddy, and so I did a fair amount of that stuff right before I remember because that was the night, you know, they had that insert shot where Michael Myers stomps
Yeah.
I remember the prosthetic visual effects head, and I remember him because it looked so real. We were watching it on screen and it was like, oh, you know, even though you knew it wasn't, you were there and you could see the whole setup and everything, it was still just so gory and gross. And that's actually that night is the photo on my Instagram, the first one that I have posted of Andi and I. So yeah.
Oh yeah, I think I remember seeing that of you guys yeah, wearing that same outfit. And so like you said, Kills was really the movie where Allyson really gets into it with Michael. And
Yeah.
so I guess you hadn't really worked with our friend James Jude Courtney. Did you work with him at all in 2018, or I guess not?
We didn't really work together, but that night with Oscar, where Oscar died,
Yeah.
James and I were actually hanging out in that shed. James used to be a stunt person,
Yeah.
as a matter of fact, and is quite physically able. And so we got to hang out with each other in the shed because we were, you know, kind of hiding off camera, and just talk for quite a long time and get to know each other pretty well, which was awesome because we're still friends. He and his fiance Sarah are quite good friends of mine, and have continued that friendship throughout the series and beyond. So that was actually the first night I really got to meet James, and, you know, talk about fighting and stunt stuff. And he spoke to me quite a bit about, you know, becoming Michael, which was really cool, and sort of his methodology. And yeah, it was great. It was fantastic. It was a fantastic experience.
Oh man, well, we love James, and we love his portrayal of this character, and just the way, like you said, like how he has approached it. Um, and that's awesome to hear that you guys were right off screen as this scene is happening, and that Oscar fence scene that everybody remembers from 2018 so well. And you guys are just off screen meeting and catching up and talking about fighting and stuff. And probably neither one of you really knew exactly what kind of fight you'd be doing with each other in the next movie.
No idea. And that was an incredible experience too. You know, he's really you know, big on meditation and stuff like that, and he really gets into this Michael state. You know, it's really quite phenomenal, and you can feel it like radiating off of him when he's in character. And doing that fight scene with him, you know, where he smashes Allyson's head into the railing and then sort of throws her down the stairs, felt very real. You know, you've got the adrenaline going, you know what's about to happen, and then at the same time you have it's Michael Myers. It's Michael Myers about to smash your head into something and throw you down the stairs.
and that is such an intense sequence. Before we get to that, how early on did they tell you that they were going to have you back for a sequel? Or I guess they announced both sequels at the same time. So when did you learn there were going to be 2 more movies? And did you know you were going to be back in both of them, or did you even know that going into Kills?
Yeah, I didn't know. I mean, I found out from Andi. Okay. Actually, we stayed in touch. So she let me know that they were doing another show, and they went with a different stunt coordinator. So she texted me and she was like, "Hey, do you know the new stunt coordinator they're hiring? And, you know, are you coming back out, kind of thing, to double me? Because I would like you to," kind of thing. And the stunt coordinator was Aaron Armstrong, who's also a friend of mine. He also doubled James in the second and third one, as well as stunt coordinating the second one. So I believe how it happened was that Andi actually sent him my information and was like, "This is who doubled me in the first one and who I want to double me in the second one." And he reached out to me, and, you know, he was like, "Hey, Andi wants you to be her double. You look like a fantastic double. Have you done a stair fall before? And can you show me footage of said stair fall?" And I have that footage up. It was from the Night House, doubling Rebecca Hall. I did a pretty gnarly stair fall for that, so I was able to shoot him that right over, and he was like, fantastic. And I met him working on another show in North Carolina. He like stopped by, and so I got to meet him in person. And then I went down not like a month later to work on Halloween again.
Oh, and I love that Andi, you know, went out of her way to bring you back on, because obviously she liked the collaboration you guys shared. I mean,
she's amazing. She's truly, and I'm not just, you know, saying this because she's my actress or, you know, whatever, or I'm being recorded, but she is truly just a wonderful person who always goes to bat for me, and has made sure that I was on all 3 films.
That's awesome.
So
So with Kills, let's talk a little bit about that epic stairway fight scene. It's Allyson and Michael, and I always say with Halloween Kills, I mean, I feel like that's ultimate Michael Myers. I mean, these all 3 of these films I feel like are really the Strode women films in a lot of ways, but that one, it's I
he
like
went
that
to
is just
town
the
in
ultimate
that.
Michael. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
love it. And Allyson, though, you know, she comes at him, she's stabbing at him, she's getting slammed, and then that stair fall. Can you talk to us about shooting that? What was that like on the day? How long did it take to? What can you tell us about shooting that scene? That's such an epic, intense scene.
Yeah, for sure. Well, like I said, it was, you know, it's so when you're doing a stunt scene, where you have a big gag, like a stair fall or something like that, you know, the adrenaline's definitely pumping. And you're in character, and it's real to a certain extent. I think a lot of people think that what we do, is edited in such a way that we're not actually doing that. But when you're doing stunts and you're getting hit by a car, you're getting hit by a car. If you're getting thrown down the stairs, you're getting thrown down the stairs, you know? So that's all very real. And the intensity of that scene was definitely off the chain. It was, you know, it's late at night. I know the stair fall's coming up. Michael Myers is there, and he's slamming my head in. He's throwing me down the stairs. We did the stair fall. We shot the stair fall. It was 3 takes.
Okay.
I got thrown down the stairs 3 times. But then also, you know, she breaks her leg, right? They wanted her to land very specifically.
Yeah.
So after we shot the 3 takes falling down the stairs fully, I went up about a third of the way or so.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would fall down and make sure I landed with my leg extended. Yeah. And we shot that a whole bunch of times, to get that the way they wanted, so that they could, you know, make that break happen. Mm-hmm. But it went really well. Like it all went fantastic. It was, I think, I think Andi posted some behind the scenes, of me falling down the stairs, and like David's reaction to it, where he was like, oh shit, you know, and everybody's worried when you get to the bottom that you're like hurt. And then, you know, cause you have to stay sort of in character until they yell cut. You can't just like hop back up and dust yourself off. So people, but every time it seems like people forget that, because they just like, you know, they wait for a little bit and then they say cut and they're like, oh my God, is she okay? She wasn't moving. And, you know, then you just like, you know, like, no, I'm good. I'm ready to go again, you know, kind of thing. So yeah.
It sounds like it was an intense experience, and like you said, I mean, it felt almost real to have Michael Myers coming at you like that. And yeah, I saw that footage that Andi shared, and David's reaction. That's awesome. That because you see it, and like you say, I mean, it's not special effects, it's not digital. You know, that's a human body falling down actual stairs. And then yeah, when she lands and the broken leg, it's also intense. I'm wondering how much on the stunt side is changed on the day, because I know we've interviewed. Well, we talked to Judy's stunt double from Kills, Rachel, and we've talked to Douglas Tate, and of course James a couple of times, and also a lot of the cast members over the last couple of years. And I know on the script side with the cast, it's very fluid. The script is very fluid on David Gordon Green's sets, and things are changing on the day a lot of times. A lot of them have talked to us about that. How much of that applies to the stunt stuff, or not so much? Is that pretty much all predetermined way ahead of time, and isn't much room for?
It's predetermined way ahead of time, and then it's also subject to change.
Okay.
So we actually we did a lot of previs and testing of Allyson jumping off the roof,
Okay.
and breaking her leg. So I was in a harness testing, jumping off that roof. And they ended up cutting that and just going with the stair fall. They were trying to figure out a way to do both of them, and they couldn't find a way to make it work. There was always, and then they were like, well, do we have her jump off the roof or do we have her do the stair fall? And then they went with the stair fall, which I think was the right decision. I think that was would have been more gnarly than just jumping off the roof and landing incorrectly, but being okay. So there's a lot of that. I wouldn't say it was too last minute though. It was like, within that week they were talking about it, but day of, they knew they were going to do a stair fall.
Okay.
And sometimes timing changes. When I was on the Night House and I had that stair fall, originally I was supposed to do that at the end of the shoot. And then they came up to me one day and they were like, actually, we're going to do it at the end of this night, like 3 weeks before it was planned, so stuff like that does happen. Sometimes as the show goes on, they'll change things. Sometimes when they're, in prep time, they're debating stuff. So it is very fluid on David's sets. Absolutely. But also just in general.
Yeah. So moving into Halloween Ends now, now in this movie, Allyson's character, this is my favorite version of Allyson of the three movies. I've said this before, and we talked to one of the writers, Paul Logan, a few weeks ago, and talked about this whole love story aspect of Allyson and Corey. And what was your reaction, just as a now you're part of this, you're part of the co-creator of this character in a way. What was your reaction when you saw, oh, this movie's going in some different directions that we haven't seen in these other ones before?
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like every movie was very different, in terms of what they decided to focus on. And I really liked what they did with this one. I know people feel very strongly about it either way. But I loved it. I thought it really gave Andi a chance to just show what she's capable of as an actress. And I think she did a phenomenal job. And I liked that she had so much of her own story. I thought that was great and really fun to see. And I really liked the character of Corey. I thought it was a really interesting way to sort of, show that difference between inherent evil that is Michael Myers. He would have always been that way. And then Corey, who became something evil. And so I loved that. Yeah, but it was I didn't know exactly what to expect. I didn't know until I watched it either. Even being on set. So I didn't even know that there was, a copycat killer until I saw Rowan like putting on the mask and walking up to the door, and I was like on set, like, wait, what's happening? Oh my gosh, kind of thing. Like, what is going on? And they don't always tell you because they want as few people to know as possible. They're very proprietary about that, which makes total sense. But yeah, I thought it was great. I thought Andi did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I agree. I thought she did a really great job, and I thought Rowan did awesome as Corey as well. Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of that, and surprisingly so. I admit, as a fan, going into it, you're like, well, what is this? How am I going to feel about this character? This is, kind of different. But I found myself at the end of the movie really, liking that new element a lot. So can you talk to us about some of what you shot on this? And I think I saw a behind the scenes shot. You did some of the motorcycle. I love the motorcycle riding when Corey and Allyson are having their kind of forbidden star-crossed romance, and they have this cool riding on the motorcycle. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, it was interesting. I think originally they had a lot more action for Allyson. They actually had her driving the motorcycle, not just riding it. So I actually came out and I was doing test runs with a motorcycle, and they were filming it and stuff like that. And that ended up not making it, unfortunately. But I did the riding on the motorcycle. He's the other stunt double and I, he's going quite fast, and neither one of them are wearing helmets. So he's gunning it as fast as that bike possibly can. So I did all the fast no helmet riding, which, like, when I first kind of started, I was like, oh, this doesn't really feel like much of a stunt. And then we did it, and you're watching the pavement like fly by, and you're like, oh, this is this is dangerous. And then I did a lot of her driving, especially when they had James on the roof of the car, because he was actually on the roof of that car, and to drive through crowds and stuff like that. And then all that stuff sounds kind of simple until you realize you also have to like drive reverse all the way through the crowd and reset at the exact same mark. So I did a lot of that stuff. And then I also did a lot of ND driving I did, Allyson's driving, but I also drove in the procession, not as Allyson. Just a lot of helping out where you can, kind of thing, because you're part of the stunt team as well as being a double. And yeah, just making sure that Allyson was good. Andi, making sure Andi was good, and always having, pads for her, for whatever she might need to do. As well.
And you've hit on this already a little bit, but working with Andi, it sounds like you guys formed a real bond here. And here it's the third film. It's kind of the culmination of this trilogy of films, which I call the Strode trilogy. And
I like that Strode trilogy.
Well, I think it it's fitting. It's more Laurie centric than a lot of the other movies, and the other Strode women as well. It's very much Karen, and then this movie, I think Allyson in so many ways gets the spotlight in a lot of ways she didn't in the other one. Like you said, she's kind of doing her own thing. It's kind of more her own story this time, as opposed to just what's reacting to everything else happening in the other two a little bit. So with this coming to a conclusion now, looking back, can you talk to us a little bit about what that relationship has meant to you and with Andi and just this character who's now a part of this franchise forever, and this franchise, it's 45 going on 45 years, and this is the end of this version, but we know this will go on in some way down the road, and Allyson will be a character that fans are going to talk about, like Corey, like Loomis, like all these characters. They're going to be talked about forever. And so now you're kind of part of a co-author of that with Andi. So what's that been like? And now that you've concluded this third chapter.
Well, like I said, I mean, it's been so incredible to actually be able to finish the trilogy. And it was only me and Ashley Trisler, Jamie Lee Curtis's stunt double. We were the only part of the stunt team that completed the trilogy. And I have Andi to thank for that. I think it's really special because I know that, when Andi first got this movie, this was one of her biggest movies to date, the first one. And I had been doing stunts for a little while. I had been more dabbling in it. I hadn't really like completely gone for it or established myself yet, and I just started doing that in Atlanta when I got the call for this movie. So this was kind of one of my first big breaks as well. And I've been working consistently since then, but so it was kind of cool in the beginning where we were both so excited about this movie and both starting the trilogy together, but also kind of like launching our careers a little bit together at the same time, which was quite special. And yeah, I mean, you get all different types of actors when you double and on set. They're people. So not everybody wants to be friends with their stunt double, which is totally fine. Sometimes it's just a job, or you know, they have so many different stunt doubles, or, you know, but Andi always took the time to get to know me, was always interested in what I was doing, always concerned for my safety, and, you know, really became a friend, you know, outside of just the trilogy, which is amazing. And I'm so grateful for that. And it was really fun to have that shared experience with her over the years. And we still stay in touch, which is amazing. You know, that really doesn't always happen. So it's very special to me.
It definitely sounds very special. And I think it's cool too that you were there for all three films. So, you know, it's just the two of you that have really been on screen as this character. And so it has really just been a partnership and just the two of you.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a bond, you know. Like you'll always have that.
So Ends is out now, and you said you were surprised with a lot of things the first time you saw it, which I guess was at the big Hollywood premiere when they had it.
I ended up not being able to go to
Okay.
the premiere. I was working on a show in Baltimore,
Oh.
so I would have loved to, and I was supposed to go to the Halloween Kills premiere, and I wasn't able to make that one either. And I was like, well, I'll definitely make it to the third one, and it just so happened that it didn't work out. So I was quite proud of that. But I enjoyed watching everybody's stories about it.
Well, what was your reaction the first time you saw the finished film and saw how all of this concluded, and just as somebody, you know, you're part of this family now, but just watching the films as a horror fan and a movie fan, what was your reaction?
I mean, it had all of like the goriness that I loved and expected, you know, that the first part when, you know, the kid goes flying over the railing and lands, you know, it's like, I thought that was like a great intro, you know, right away. Like, oh my goodness. So that was fantastic. And I really didn't know. I mean, I had some idea of what happened, obviously, because I was on set, but there was still so much I didn't know, and didn't know what to expect exactly. So I was very entertained, which was awesome. I was like pleasantly surprised by Allyson's storyline. And the ending, I actually, you know, I was there for that final scene. And I was standing right next to the mattress shredder when he got put in, and got to see, you know, the blood, you know, explode. So that was really cool. And I loved the movie. But you really, like, when you're watching something like that, you know, you've worked with all these people for years, you know, a lot of the same hair people and crew, and, you know, David, Attila, Andi, Jamie, and just, you know, you're seeing the fruits of all that labor on screen, and really understanding what it took to make that, in terms of not, you know, not just like financially and stuff like that, but in terms of time and effort. And, you know, it's difficult shooting nights. It's really difficult shooting nights, like just staying up all night, especially if you're doing physical stuff, and filming is very physical, not just for the stunt department. It's like, it's blood, sweat, and tears. So I was quite proud of everybody. And I thought, you know, it was a fitting end.
Yeah, definitely. And now you, like I said, you are part of this massive legacy. I know you're gonna have fans that are gonna want to. I know you've been hearing it for the last 4 years probably, but there's gonna be fans for decades that are gonna want to talk about this film and talk about this character and these films, I should say. How do you feel about that? I mean, this is, again, a huge fandom, a huge established franchise, and 3 films out of 13. That's a lot of films in this franchise. Not a lot of people can say that. And like I said, there'll be some audience members that will be excited to want to ask you questions. Some of the questions I've asked you today for maybe the next 40 years. Are you ready for that? Have you thought about that at all?
Oh yeah, I'm so excited. Like I said, like I love horror fans. I just think horror fans are the best fans. It's just it's so funny because I didn't know what to expect, especially like with The Strangers, I think was like my first kind of Strangers Pray at Night, my first kind of dose of that. And just like how kind everybody was, how excited they were, the community. It was just really wonderful and lovely to see. And I didn't know what to expect. So, it was so great. And I'm so excited for, there to be new Halloween fans and for the legacy to, continue. And, I do my best to answer people on social media. If I don't answer, it probably got filtered or, I'm working a 15-hour day on set or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I have nothing but love for horror fans.
What is one thing, because like you said, when in 2018 you got this and it was still relatively early in your career, and here we are, 4.5 years, I guess almost 5 years since you got the role, or started talking to them. And now you've done a lot of these other projects and all. What's something from those films that you didn't have before in your tool belt, so to speak, and now you're carrying with you and going to use on future projects and moving down the road?
Um, well, learning to be able to shoot on location, because that's quite an adjustment. I've got to say, staying in hotels for long periods of time, it sounds glamorous, but it is anything but, and then also, I mean, I've done so many stair falls now. And just really, I think the biggest takeaway and the thing that I've learned in this industry is that, we're actors too. It's stunt acting, I'm in character when I do those stunts. I'm fully present and in it. And I think I honestly learned that on Halloween, and I've been able to bring that onto the other shows and movies I've worked on. And it makes a huge difference.
Oh, I love that, and I totally agree. Again, I've talked to a lot of stunt performers and actors, and I have just such a respect for what you guys do. And I mean, I've talked to a lot of the men who have played Michael Myers in the previous movies, and a lot of them have amazing stunt backgrounds. And one of my favorites is Dick Warlock of Halloween 2. He worked with everybody from Elvis to John Wayne, Walt Disney, and they've all got these amazing, like, death-defying stories, and a lot of it is films that they might not have even received credit for, and nobody even knows. And here they are making the stars of the film look great in these iconic scenes that we all remember, and especially in years past, they often didn't even get that credit even in the credits.
Yeah.
So to be a part of this new age of modern stunt work in a time where so much is digital, so much is green screen, and can you just comment a little bit about that, about what the I guess importance, or the to keep this alive in film, because this is kind
Yeah.
of where it all started. And I feel like there's a lot of people don't realize what goes into it. And I love hearing you say that, yeah, you are acting when you're doing this. You were in that character too, as much as you're doing the stunt work. That is another form of acting. And I love that. Whether I've talked to James or any of these other people that do stunts, I think most of them would agree with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think keeping stunts practical and having people, safely, do real gags is important. I know we're moving more and more to CGI, and it's not quite the same. I think anybody who's seen something really heavily CGI'd would agree. And I will say that, for everything that makes it to screen, you don't see so much, so much didn't make it, or, something that's really small took quite a lot of physical effort, and might have been quite painful, and it got cut, or it was like a 3-second blip. So yeah, just I have so much respect for the profession and other stunt performers, and we know that so much we do doesn't make it, but we're always stoked when it does, and I hope that as technology improves, they continue to have stunt people, and really give the performers the respect they deserve, and the opportunities that they deserve. I think there's something that translates on screen about someone really falling down the stairs, and when you're really in that headspace, when you're really acting, when you're in that zone, I think that energy translates.
Definitely. Back on Halloween for 1 second, do you have a favorite memory from set of all three of the films? Like, what is there one memory that you'll look back on the most, do you think? Or
I mean, I think two. I think one is that night that I have that photo of with me and Andi. Just I think that was towards the end of the shoot, and just we were kind of celebrating together, and she gave me a big hug, and we just, it was such a great experience, and that was kind of, the accumulation of it. So I'll always remember that, and her wanting to take the photos. And then also, just the stair fall and David's reaction, that always cracked me up. So I think I think I'll always remember that.
Awesome. And now, and you're still, rising in your career. I feel like you're still at the beginning of this, but you have done, like you said, a lot of work since 2018, and even this year. It sounds like you've been super busy. Of all your stunt work outside of the franchise or within it, what's been the one thing so far that's just been the most crazy, that you were maybe the most nervous or excited, or the combination of both? What's the one right now that, like, you're telling your stunt friends, like, man?
Well, I don't know if this is definitely, this might be the craziest.
Okay.
I don't think it was the most difficult or anything like that, but I doubled on Legacies for quite a while, and there was one scene where the three girls that are the main characters in that show, they ingested something, and they're supernatural, they're witches, werewolf, vampire, and they ingested something, and it made them hallucinate, and so they're hallucinating that they're pandas, and there's this giant explosion. So I know this I mean, it's as crazy as it sounds, right? So basically the point of this is that I was in a panda costume. I was in a full-on panda costume with two other stunt girls, and we're harnessed in to this rig, and they call 3, 2, 1 action, and it yanks us up in the air, and we're all like spinning and flying through the air in these panda suits, while an explosion like right behind us like goes off with this huge fireball. And it was just a wild, wacky night.
Wow.
So that's probably one of the crazier, funner stunts I've done, for sure.
Oh man, that definitely sounds insane. Oh man. And I know you've worked, well, you said your IMDb and that updated, but you've worked on some Marvel projects recently, right?
Yeah, I have. I worked on Endgame and Loki.
Yes.
Yeah, they shoot a lot of Marvel at Pinewood, or it's Trilith now. Big studios in Atlanta. So I've been very blessed to be able to be a part of those. They also filmed The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, I
Yeah.
believe. And I was one of the doubles for The Witch, and I was also I was a dead body on it. An animated dead body. I wasn't lying there. I worked on that for quite a while. Lovecraft Country.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
lot of fun on that one. I got to do some driving. I got to drive a really cool Bentley. It was a near miss and crashed through the windshield. And so yeah, it's been a lot of fun. You know, there's not really a dull moment. You're always on your toes. And you know, if you're kind of chilling for a second, you know, it seems like you don't have much to do, that can change in a heartbeat. So
Yeah.
ready for the thing kind of profession.
It sounds like it. And I mean, yeah, I mean, stepping into that Marvel family and being part of the MCU, I mean, obviously that's massive franchise legacy fandom as well. But let's go back for just a second and talk about playing the witch in The Conjuring. The Devil Made Me Do It. You know, again, our audience, I know, very familiar with that franchise, of course. And I love those movies. The Conjuring movies, especially. You know, I love all of them. But can you talk just a little bit about that and playing that character, which again I think is just one of the best kind of recent interpretations of just a creepy witch character that you know, when you've seen it all in witches, you know, I love when somebody tries to bring us a new interpretation.
Yeah, so there were two stunt doubles for her. I was one of them. Um, and yeah, I got to slit some throats and fight some people and do some magic. And you know, there was one scene where they have a from her POV, right? And it's not a GoPro. It's like this huge heavy rig with like a full size camera on it. So you know, it's one of those things again that doesn't seem like stunt work, but it is, because it
Yeah.
takes a massive amount of strength to sort of keep that on your head and film the way they want, because they wanted close-ups of her hands doing
Yeah.
you know, the Conjuring.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a big part of a lot of her stuff as well.
Oh man, that's awesome. And so what's on the horizon now? I know you've been busy, and you probably can't even say some of the stuff you've been working on. But what can our audience look to see you in upcoming?
Yeah, so there are some things I can't talk about. They're quite serious about NDAs.
Hmm.
And then some things, you know, a lot of our work is booked pretty close to the day.
Yeah.
So you don't want to say you're going to be in something and then have it change. But I very recently I was in the Dominican Republic. I did a little work on the remake of Roadhouse,
Oh yeah.
which was a
Cool.
lot of fun. And then I was in Baltimore, where I don't know, I can't say too much, but it's for the show Lioness,
Oh okay.
which was filming in Baltimore. And then right now, I am working on Fear the Walking Dead.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
very
Love it.
excited. I got to be a guard, and now I'm going to be a walker. So
I was gonna ask if
yeah, I mean, I did some work on The Walking Dead, but I wasn't a walker. So to be on Fear the Walking Dead and finally get to be a walker is, you know, bucket list and pretty cool.
yes, check. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it was
Uh,
last minute too. I wasn't going to be a walker, so I'm pretty stoked.
oh, that's awesome. Awesome. Well, it sounds like things are going great, and yeah, it sounds like you are busy as can be, and we're gonna keep seeing more of you. But I can't thank you enough for hanging out with us today and giving us all these inside stories. I mean, it just sounds like it's been an awesome journey for you. You know, even you know, going back before these movies, when you were dressed up as Michael Myers on Halloween. Starting there to here now where you are and part of that franchise, part of that Michael Myers world. That sounds pretty awesome. So I really appreciate you sharing your story with us today.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride, and I'm so glad I could talk to you guys more about it.
And yeah, we'll look forward to having you back on and talking about future projects at some time.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait.
I can't wait either. And it's the big weekend. It's Halloween weekend, so of course, happy Halloween.
Oh, happy Halloween. I hope everybody has a great time.